JMU wins a record-setting 25th game. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers, join today, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. Welcome back to another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. I'm your host, Dave Schultz. We'll talk about the Thursday night hoops coming up tonight. We'll preview a little Sunbelt baseball as well. College football, all of a sudden, is talking about going to a 14-team playoff. I'm not sure how that would work. Just go to 16 and just stop. Just go to 16. That's what it should be. Everyone plays 4 games. There's no buys. Play the first 2 rounds on campus and be done with it. I'm not sure why we're going to 14, but whatever. That would actually be better for the group of 5 and the Sunbelt, the more teams they get in. All right, 2 ball games tonight or last night in the Sun Belt. You had James Madison and Marshall, and not much of a ball game. It was very odd. I think I have the halftime statistics. Let me see if I can find this because I'm not sure how this game was very close. I don't know if 12 points is close or not. It was 39-27 at half. All right, and JMU, let's get to it. They win 84-58 in a blowout ball game, all JMU for the second half. But some of these stats are, you just try to figure out how they got to only 12 points. And I say only 12 points because Marshall shot 28% in the first half. JMU shot 50. Now, that's only 4 buckets. So I'm trying to figure out how that happened. Total rebounds is JMU 23-13, first half. All right. I don't get it. Turnovers, points over turnovers were 4 apiece. I didn't get it. Points in the paint was JMU 16-10. They led for 18 and a half minutes of the first half. It was a 4-point game, 27-23, and then Marshall just started throwing up threes and not coming really close to hitting any of them. James Madison goes on a 12-4 run to end the half, and they go on to win it. What did I say? 84-58. Let's get the whole stats in here. I mean, they had their typical ball game. Terrence Edwards Jr. had 16, although he didn't lead the team. Noah Friedel actually led the squad. 6 of 9 shooting, 4 of 6 from 3. Edwards Jr. was 5 and 11 from the floor. Wooden actually had 18 points on 6 of 8 shooting, and TJ Bickerstaff had 12 points. I don't think any of them played all that much. Yeah, that's nice when Friedel's playing 32 minutes. Edwards played 21. Wooden played 23. Yeah, not much at all. Right, that's a way to save legs heading into the postseason, right? We got another this weekend and next, and then at the end of the month and beginning of March is the conference tournament. And so you did have Bickerstaff and Friedel actually in a little bit of foul trouble with 4, but that didn't really affect the game or probably their playing time as James Madison was in control. Now, as it turns out, so James Madison improves to 25-3, 12-3 in the Sun Belt, yet they still haven't clinched a top 4 spot only because Southern Miss is their other loss. James Madison has been swept by App State, and Southern Miss is 8-6, and so they can win all their rest of their ball games, go 12-6, and JMU can lose all the rest of the ball games and go 12-6, and they would finish ahead of them. Now, that's not going to happen, but Just saying their only other loss besides the App State ball games is the Southern Miss. So they would lose a tiebreaker to the Golden Eagles. Again, that's not going to happen. But James Madison gets one more win, and they will clinch a top 4 seed. I don't think that really matters. They want to finish, either 1, 2, or 3. They do not want to finish 4th. Although, because I think it's coming down right now, and we'll see what happens, how the matchups work out, and if there's upsets, in basically the double bye round, if you will. The top 4 teams, if a team loses, because we had it last year, and we'll go over that again, at the appropriate time. But I'm thinking it's going to be JMU and App State. And right now, I think JMU is probably playing a little bit better. All right. And I think Terrence Edwards Jr. will get into this more next week. He's probably the player of the year as of, most of the season. But right now, there's still a few games left. He's been so consistent all season long. I presume that's going to get it. App State does not have. They're a little bit more balanced in the scoring. Although so is JMU. I mean, they're big 3 guys. Friedel and Biggerstaff always get it. But Edwards is second in the conference in scoring behind the Cajuns' Kobe Julian, and I don't think they're going to give it to Julian because, App State and JMU are better. So I presume it's going to come from one of those 2 teams. And then when you look at the scoring, that's usually where it comes from. Terrence Edwards Jr. will probably be the player of the year. All right, elsewhere. On the other hand, let me say this. On the other hand, Marshall loses. They're 7-8. Now there's Georgia Southern, Monroe, South Alabama, and Marshall all 7-8. We'll get to Georgia State. They're also 7-8, but they won. Those are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teams looking at that last spot that don't want any part of it. All right. We'll get to that Georgia State game here in a moment. But Marshall 7-8. Now they're looking, a couple weeks ago, they were trying to get in the top 4. And now they're looking to avoid the bottom 4. Not great for the herd. All right. This other ball game, this Georgia State Coastal Carolina ball game. This is a crazy ball game. Georgia State led most of the first half and then trailed most of the second half. Coastal Carolina was down 9. They were down 7.5, 37-30. And then Georgia State scored the first bucket of the second half, and then it was all Coastal Carolina. They took the lead. Let's see where it was. It didn't take that long. They took a 45-40 lead. Kylan Blackman made a 3-pointer with 14:15 to go. And then they didn't trail again until 1.8 seconds. It's quite the ending of the ball game because it would have been a brutal loss for Georgia State. They're down by 3. Dwan Odom makes a corner 3. And if you go look at the play, it was kind of interesting. He actually had an open 3 and then dribbled into the defense and did a step back 3. Made it a little bit more difficult for himself, but he made it. That makes it 69-69. Nice. Coastal Carolina comes down. Nice jump shot by Jacob Meyer to make it a 2-point game, 71-69. Odom dribbles up the right side, drives to the bucket, and finds Tenary Lane in the corner on the far side, right in front of the Georgia State bench, and he nails a 3. Coastal Carolina proceeds to throw the ball out of bounds on the ensuing inbounds play following a timeout. And Georgia State hangs on to win it 72-71. It was I didn't watch much of the ball game, to be honest with you, but I saw the last 3 plays, if not 4. And so big win for Georgia State. So they're also in that mark. They're in that 7 and 8 spot, tied with Marshall. All right. And then South Alabama, Monroe, and Georgia Southern are all 5 and 9. So you have 5 teams that are within, 1 game of each other. We'll see who gets that 4th spot. You do not want to be in that. It's really tough to make a run in that first round of the Sun Belt. All right, let's take a timeout. We will preview the Thursday night hoops action. We'll also try and take a look at the baseball as well. Some of it is still going on. We actually had a couple of Power 5 wins today or yesterday in the Sun Belt. We will be back after this. It is Locked On Sun Belt, your team every day. All right, it's by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more, whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit. Only available to U.S. customers. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Let's take a look at the Thursday night hoop action. Let's see if you do have the, excuse me, you do have that Arkansas State Troy matchup that is on national TV. So that's nice. That's on ESPNU, and it's actually an 8 o'clock Central Time start, and that is a big ball game. Arkansas State 8-6 still has an outside shot at a number 4 at a top 4 seed, although they have been swept by the Cajuns, so they can't tie the Cajuns. The thing is, Troy is on the road for the final 4 games of the season, and maybe they fall out. All right, they play some interesting competition. Arkansas State 8-6. Monroe's playing better. The Cajuns will be tough in the Cajun Dome, and then you got to finish it up with Texas State. And I would not be surprised if Troy is playing for a top 4 seed on that last day. I don't think they can be eliminated in 3 games, but it's going to be close. So they will have a shot. They'll have to probably win that Texas State game to get that, to get a top 4 seed. Arkansas State is a 2.5-point favorite at home. Wow. I'll take Arkansas State in that one. Let me see what the last time they played. I'm sure they have played before, right? Did they play before? Troy beat them 82-71. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Arkansas State beat Troy 82-71. They've already beaten them, and that was a ball game. That's right. That just happened. Troy fell apart in that ball game. That was a lack of composure. Arkansas State couldn't miss, but Troy lost their composure, and you don't see that very often, from Troy, and you don't see it from Scott Cross's teams either. It's one thing missing buckets. It's another thing they lost composure, and again, Arkansas State could not miss. All right, elsewhere, Cajuns in a big one because they're trying to stay in this top 4 seed. They're at their rival Monroe. Monroe, again, has been playing better. Cajuns a 6.5-point favorite. This feels like it's a win and move on. Monroe has won 6 of their last 9 ball games. They took it on the chin last time out against Troy, but they did beat a beat-up Southern Miss team the game before. They took down Eastern Michigan, beat Coastal Carolina, lost on the road to the Cajuns in Arkansas State, but they had won at Old Dominion, beat South Alabama and Arkansas State, which could prove to be a tough loss for the Red Wolves, depending on how the season finishes up. But the Cajuns, again, can't overlook Monroe. And as much as the Cajuns are trying to stay in the top 4, Monroe doesn't want any part of the bottom 4, and a win would go a long way. Cajuns have not shot it well as of recently. I'm going to take the Cajuns to win, but I think Monroe will cover. The Cajuns only beat them by 8 last time out, 80-72. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Let's see what else is going on tonight in hoops. You do have Texas State and Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern with a win would go a long way to avoid the bottom 4. Texas State's got their work cut out for them. They are second to last in the conference, 4-10. But I think, have they won a few here as of recently? Well, they had won 4 in a row, but they've lost at South Alabama, and they just lost to Southern Miss by 4, 78-74. So they are playing better. We'll see. It's going to be tough to do it on the road at Georgia Southern and at Georgia State. You got to take Georgia Southern. I'm not sure if if Georgia Southern has mailed it in yet or not. That's Georgia Southern 2.5 points. I'll take Georgia Southern because they're at home. But that line tells you all you need to know about what Vegas, so to speak, thinks of Georgia Southern. Old Dominion and App State. This is a good example of it's hard to win on the road. App State should be double digits over ODU. They're 8.5. This should be a 15-point spread. They're begging you. There's no reason why this should not be more. Maybe 15 is too high, but 10, 11. They're begging you to take App. I'll take App with the 8.5. I mean, they should blow out Old Dominion. It is what it is. They should blow them out. All right. We shall see. App State, again, still trying to secure that number 1 seed. And depending on what Troy does, right, they could secure it sooner rather than later. They do have that cushion sweeping JMU. All right. And South Alabama and Southern Miss. Southern Miss still has an outside shot at a top 4 seed. They're certainly getting healthy, although Victor Hart is banged up. Andre Cabello came back in a big way. Had a big ball game last time out. I'll take Southern Miss minus 4.5 at home, hosting South Alabama. All right. And we'll see what happens. Again, that big ball game, 8 o'clock, Arkansas State hosting Troy Central Time. That is on ESPNU. Just hasn't been a whole lot of games moved nationally. So usually the Sun Belt has that. I was thinking that maybe App State and the Cajuns could be nationally televised, but App State lost to Texas State and the Cajuns lost to Georgia State, because one of them would have been on like a 9-game winning streak and the other one would have been on an 11-game winning streak, something like that. Like it would have been among the longest in the nation, and they're going up against each other. It was a good ball game. App State pulled it out. We certainly talked about that, but I just don't remember more than a couple of ball games that have been nationally televised for the Sun Belt this year, which is a little disappointing. I get the plus package so I can watch them all. All right, let's take a time out. We'll check out what happened in baseball on Thursday or on Wednesday, as the case may be, and look ahead to this weekend as well, and what matchups we do have in Sun Belt baseball. We will do that when we come back after I tell you about FanDuel. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. There were some Power 5 victories that the Sunbelt had on a Wednesday. James Madison actually had come from ahead victory over Vatech. They were ahead 6-1, like after 4. They jumped out to a 4-0 lead, up 6-1, fell behind 7-6, tied it up in the 8th, and won it in the 9th. James Madison with an 8-7 victory over Virginia Tech. Arkansas State had a 4-0 lead on Ole Miss. They hang on for a 4-2 victory. I guess the 5-0 start is the best start for the Red Wolves since 1997. Nice to see the Red Wolves playing good ball. And, I mean, the Ole Miss Mississippi State thing, that's insane, right? They went back-to-back championships, and now they both stink. Like, they have fallen off a cliff. It's one thing not to contend for a national championship. It's another thing to be bad. It's one thing to falter in a regional or a super regional. It's another thing not to make the NCAA tournament. And that's what happened. I mean, almost wins a championship a couple years ago, and they have a losing record last year. I don't know how that happens. Okay. All right. Elsewhere in baseball, let's see here. South Alabama is a 5-0, if I can find it. Yes, they beat Southeastern 8-1. So good start for Mark Calvy's crew at Eddie Stinky Field. And I believe Southern Miss. This is taking a bit. Southern Miss leading at the time of this recording. New Orleans 15-8 in New Orleans. It's the bottom of the ninth. So this is, I think thought this game was in the ninth inning when we started. But this game will take your normal 3.5 hours on a midweek game. But Southern Miss leads UNO 15-8, so they will win that ball game. In the rescheduled game, Virginia does take down Old Dominion after attending the sad funeral arrangements for one of the players. Player's father passed away. Let me get that right. One of the players' fathers for Virginia passed away, so they went to the funeral on Tuesday and they played on Wednesday. So Old Dominion loses 8-0. James Madison wins 8-7. Arkansas State wins 4-2. Southern Miss looks like they're going to beat New Orleans, and South Alabama is 5-0 with a win over Southeastern. All right, so let's see what we got coming in here on this weekend. App State is hosting Siena. Old Dominion hosting Rutgers. Rutgers used to be a good baseball program. James Madison getting Fairfield. Coastal Carolina taking on the Fighting Illini. So that's a Power 5 team coming in. Marshall playing Michigan State, although not in Lansing. They're going to Port Charlotte. Marshall opening up their stadium next weekend, I believe. Georgia State hosting Seton Hall. Georgia Southern at Mississippi State. We'll see if Georgia Southern can get a couple of wins in Starkville. Kansas hosting Texas State. Troy gets Harvard. And we'll see if Harvard, the smart guys, elitists, Northeasterners, see if the smart Harvard guys don't pitch to Will Butcher. Let's see who leads the nation in RBIs and not pitch to that guy. Sorry, Will. That's what comes with the territory. So we'll see if Harvard works around that or if he drives in another 10 runs this week, which would be awful for him. And then the Cajuns are bringing in Rice. Actually, no, Jose Cruz Jr., his father, right? Jose Cruz, longtime Astro. He was a manager for the San Antonio Tejanos back in the day of the Texas-Louisiana League. And there's some great stories with him about that. But I had met in a previous life, if you will, doing something else. I had met Jose Cruz Jr. He's a very nice man. And when he played at Rice, they were good. Not so much anymore. We'll see what the Cajuns can do. They're still having some base running errors. It's not pretty. I'm going to find out what the base running errors were because I think they overslid a bag 4 times. Now, McNeese did it as well, but that doesn't make it for an excuse. If you do it once, you got to stop. Now, that would be, on my book, 8 base running mistakes in 4 games for the Cajuns. It's already cost them 1 game. It can't happen, and especially can't happen late in the season. ULM taking on Murray State. Missouri State playing Southern Miss. Lindenwood playing Arkansas State. What is that about? The Lindenwood Lions. About Lindenwood athletics. Yeesh. Let's see here. One of the top all-around NAIA. Oh, no, hold on. After 2 candidacy and 1 provisional year, Lindenwood became a full Division II member during the 2013-2014 school year. They have won, if you imagine this, 21 NAIA championships. All right. Let's see. Did they move up further? No. All right. So they are Division II. Okay. I just hadn't heard of them. Is why I'm looking. And Jacksonville State taking on South Alabama. That would have been a good series. I think the coach retired, and so a lot of kids from Jacksonville State transferred. Like most of the team transferred. So we'll see. That would have been a nice, RPI series for South Alabama, but unfortunately, things out of, everybody's control. It may affect that game. So we shall see. Should mention Marshall is in a tournament down in Port Charlotte. They got Indiana State, and then we said Michigan State, Indiana State, And that's who they're playing. So they're playing Indiana State twice and Michigan State. So they're actually in a tournament down in Port Charlotte, Florida. All right. Thank you for tuning in to Lockdown Sunbelt. We will Cajuns are on the road, so we'll watch that. And the baseball game is early on Saturday. So then we'll be home to watch the basketball game. So that'll be good. We can, yesterday at the softball game, watching the softball game, listening to the Cajuns baseball game play. McNeeson had the stats on the computer. And in the, eventually watching the Syracuse basketball game, I was doing a little bit too much. To be honest with you, doing a little bit too much. So we can concentrate on the baseball during the baseball game and then come home and watch the basketball game on Saturday. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. We are continuing to improve. Almost 1,140 subscribers. I'm not sure if we're going to get to the 1,300 by April 1st, but we'll keep trucking along. All right. And I think we got our first sponsor. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Thanks so much for tuning in to Lockdown Sunbelt, your team every day. Have a great Thursday, everybody. And we'll talk to you again on Friday.